everybody.
Hello, that's our second conversation. I'm so excited. And let's start. So, Mary, Sharon, Roshni, Latoya, I'm so glad you are here. And let's have our 15, 20-minute coffee time or tea time and about Sharon. How are
Ooh.
you? I'm
Mm.
putting you on the spot.
Yeah, so we were just speaking about that whole social framework when we connect with one another. That is one of the most common questions is how are you? And it's an interesting thing because in this moment I realize I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth. I am someone who often says, fine, I'm fine, because really I am fine. I know this. And even today, the truth is I feel really tender. And I might not say that depending on what context, but I feel really safe here. So that's really something I feel needs to come to the forefront. Otherwise, the way I will continue on would be different. Like if I just said, I'm fine. Like, yes, that all is very true. And I know that. But today, inside of a container that's safe with a group of women, feels really important to land that. Like, I am so tender today. And that's enough. I don't have to have a story. I don't have to have it connected to anything, but it feels very stabilizing to say, I'm so tender.
Oh, that's nice.
I
That's
love
nice.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I
powerful.
yeah. Mary, you want to go ahead or?
Yeah, as we were talking about this, I was thinking the message that's been coming through so strong lately is this is a year of connection, that we need to come out of our boxes. We need to come out of hibernation or wherever we've been hiding and start connecting on a really genuine basis with people. And so asking, how are you? And then, or even answering that question with more genuine feeling, if possible, if you feel like it's going to be received, then do it, because you give the other person the courage to do the same when you do it first. So, how are you? What have you been going through? What's new in your life? That's the question I like to ask, is what's new with you? Because everybody's got something, either they got up on the wrong side of the bed or their child just got an A on their test, or, whatever it is, they have something going on. So connection is the big theme for this year, I think.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I really do. Yeah. Yeah.
My son had a friend call, and it was the first time I heard it. It was grade 7, right? So the junior high. And cell phones are slowly creeping into the social interaction, into the fabric. And then his friend asked him, and it was on speakerphone, what's good? What's good? That's how he said it. What's good? And I lost my mind. I laughed for like 4 hours straight, and it's still like an ongoing joke. But it's like, I was like, do you guys always talk like that? And he said, yeah, we do. We say, hey, what's good? And they tell each other what's good. I saw a funny YouTube video, or I don't know, whatever boys do. And then that's how they start their conversation. What's good?
Wow, I love that.
That's a great question. I
So
love
great.
that. I use that question often, and I host a coffee chat each Friday with women. And I might switch it up kind of, but the basic question is, what is good? Like, tell us something you're proud of, happy about. Like Mary said, like, what's new and exciting in your world? Because that automatically pulls out what's good. But sometimes when you ask people, how are you? It does go straight to what's wrong. Like somehow that has become to be like a little bit either what's wrong or just say fine, right? Just say I'm okay, just because this is a cordial way to say hello, but I don't really care how you're doing anyway, So there's different levels of how we initiate conversation through that kind of question. And I've recently, maybe in the last couple of years, changed my default response to that question. So in most cases, if a person asks me, how are you? I'll say, I'm happy and grateful. Because that's always true anyway. even if there's other answers, like you talked about sharing, if it depends on the audience, right? What you would be willing to share about the reality of how complex you are. But in general, I'm happy and grateful. But sometimes you can talk to friends and be like, well, I'm actually kind of tired. My energy's been lagging today, but I'm keeping up. I'm, bringing myself through it, but still happy and grateful.
Yeah, it's
Mm,
interesting how this
very cool.
question that is
Beautiful.
supposed to be a common custom way of greeting people or whatever. I am now in Canada, but when I was in US as a student at university, we had this big meeting, all foreigners starting at university. We had a big meeting with the immigration department of the campus, and they gave us some information about cultural American culture. And the first thing they said is, that was years ago, decades ago. They said, if someone ask you, how are you? Don't answer. It's just a way to say hi. We were like, oh,
Oh,
okay.
oh.
That was decades ago. But it's a cultural, it's also depending on the context. If you are with your friends, as you say, Latoya, or your brother, sister calls you and says, so how are you? Like Mary, when I asked you at the beginning, how are you? Yeah, it was meant because I knew you were sick. So it depends, of course, on the context. Or what you said, Roshni, about a service call, like a phone company calling you, and the first thing they say is, hi, Roshni, Madame Roshni, how are you today? And then if you reply to them, oh, I'm fine, and you may have a short moment of silence, and then they respond, oh, yeah, thank you for asking. I've had that, a customer office, client, or not a client, the phone company, whatever, customers,
Hmm.
calling me. And when I said, oh, I'm fine, and you? And he said, thank you for asking. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Who said thank you for asking? But, because we are not used to.
We're
But
not
it's
used to.
very, yeah. And the other thing is the fact for me that intuitively, it's not like I'm forcing myself to do it, but intuitively, I am now thinking more of asking people, where are you at in your life?
Oh, that's
You
so
know,
beautiful.
because I mean, I don't ask that to anyone. Obviously, if I go to the grocery store, I'm not going to ask the cashier, where are you at in your life? But you know what I mean? This is more what I am interested in when I meet people. So where are you at in your life? you know so because how are you, and instinctively it goes to health. We don't think of life, we think of
Mm.
health. So that's why people are stuck with that framework. But how are you can be also in your life, where are you at? So yeah, it's interesting how things are shifting.
And
Yeah.
which goes back to what Mary was saying at the beginning of the conversation, is that deeper connections this year are going to be the most important. As Sharon always beautifully says, allyship, sisterhood. And you have to consciously make effort to do that and consciously ask questions that draw people in. But my question to all of you, beautiful goddesses here, is this: if you were going to ask somebody, where are you at in your life? Are you ready to hold space?
Yes, that's a very good question.
Are you ready to
Absolutely.
hold? Some people are not prepared for that, so they keep it surface, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
any
Well, for me, it's both ways, because some people may answer you, or some people may just say, oh, I'm fine, everything is fine. But you
Sure.
open the door, because even for them, they're going to ask themselves after that. It's like a checking a point, tracking
Yes.
thing that,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Sometimes,
love Roshni.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Go ahead, Sharon.
okay. I love that you're also bringing forward the importance of checking in with yourself before you open a pathway, because the, oh, what would we call them? The one asking that question, then the one receiving that question. So if I'm saying, where are you at in your life? Or often a common one for me, because I like to go deep fast, is how is your heart? Or how is your spirit? How is your soul?
Oh,
And
Uh-huh.
we
wow.
could really do any body parts if we wanted, but you know what I mean? Like this
Yeah.
whole, like you're more
How's
than
your
just
nose?
you're more than just you. So
Correct.
I love, though, that this is asking us to also take responsibility of knowing, like, the
Yes.
answer is going to be very sacred. Are we ready? Are we being receptive? Do we have the time? Because sometimes I actually don't have the time and I need it
Yes.
to be quick, but I want it to be kind. So I love this because it's both way, like we each have a role in this. It's not just the one we're asking needs to like do all the deep opening up. We too have to be of high integrity to realize what are we able, like you said gorgeously, to hold space for in that moment.
Yes.
Mhm.
And you know it if let's put it into you wake up in the morning, you can feel it. You can feel whether you're ready or not to engage at a level that's deep, that's knowing the other person at a deep level. Like today, even for me, I'm feeling a bit slower, a little tired. Sharon, you said that's a beautiful way to express your state is tender. Yes, that is there. And so how do you root yourself before you head out into the big wide world, into the 3D plane, so that you are able or are willing to be able to hold space with the people that you meet back and forth? I think it's just a choice, but then also building an awareness around your nervous system. Are you really feeling ready for this? Or is your nervous system prepared to receive the information? And are you going to help that person if they need it? Right? So it's and it goes down to very simply capacity. What's your capacity for that day or for that morning or for that minute or for that microsecond? That's what I think. Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah. Communication around the world, you see. That's
Yes.
interesting.
I
Yes.
think
Roshni,
I was just going to say, I think one thing that is so important, and it goes along with this being a year of being more communicative and more not collaboration, but just connected to people, is that we have to learn how to listen again. Because with all of this cell phone back and forth, it's we're not really often listening to each other. We're texting, or we're messaging, or we're posting, and not really hearing what's coming back sometimes. And so being if we want to focus on communicating and really connecting with people, it's that listening more than actually trying to put a message out there, or being heard ourselves.
so good.
So
And the part that Roshni, you just brought up of we need to check in with how are we first before we come in and try to engage with other people. And that's what I think maybe is a most important part, because when we kind of tether into reality, which is not this plane, right? It's somewhere else. But when we tap back into it, everything is fine. We are good. You know what I mean? But then if we skip that part and we just come straight into body and stuff and time and movement, then maybe, we might get more caught onto that identity. And which is why people might say, you know, I'm feeling tired, or, things that are in the 3D plane. But the other part I wanted to mention was, um, Vivian, you said about how a lot of times people go to health right away when you ask, how are you? And it's interesting. I was reading in this book called The Magic of Thinking Big. He was describing this condition of humanity called excusitis, right? And people use excuses in these different areas of life, like health or finance or family, right? We make excuses and then choose not to act or to be complacent. But his point was that we can equally choose either path, right? So if somebody says, how are you? And maybe the reality is like, I'm bloated, or I'm having some, I'm having something going on right now, which is physically true. but we don't have to give life to it. Like you said, we don't have to feed into it, because if we starve it of attention, then the other parts grow, like the good parts get the light. So I just thought that was interesting. I just read about that weekend.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. Months ago, I went to two different places for shopping. I went to the copy center because I sent for copies to be made from a document, and I know the person. And I walked in, and there was no customers, so I went to the counter and I said, "Ah, did you receive my email? I asked for print and the woman came and I said, "So, how are you? It's a beautiful day. How are you?" And she says to me, "I'm not doing fine. Business is slow. We don't know if we're gonna survive. Whatever. Things were going on. And anyway, then 2 minutes later, let's say 5 minutes later, I went to the bakery next door, and they know me there too. And I asked at the counter, you know, just out of habit, it's a polite way to engage. And I said to the counter, hello, Mary, how are you?" And she said, "Ah, I'm so tired." And behind me, there was a woman with her mother. And she said, "Oh, tired." And she said, "You can say that because I am not doing well." And we were not talking to her, but she says, "My mother has Alzheimer and it's so hard." And she said that in front of her mother. "It's so hard." And she was crying, you know, "It's so hard to take care of her and I'm losing it." And it touched me in a way because first, my mother had Alzheimer, she passed, but the fact that you can open up to strangers just like that, it shows that she had it up to here, you know. So sometimes it's like, because you said listen, Mary, and I think it's important to listen. And when you ask, as you said, Roshni, "Are you ready to listen, to receive?" And I'm like, oh my gosh, my morning is about suffering, hearing suffering in the world, which is normal because we are all suffering in different ways. You know, this is a Buddhist saying, there's suffering, of course. But and how do you react? You know? So that's also interesting when you listen to the world. I had a friend, a classmate, let's put it that way. Whenever we ask him at school, "So how are you?" You know, just as a way to say, "How are you?" And he would say, he was very into politics. And he said, "Oh, I'm not doing well. Did you see what happened in Bangladesh?" And we were like, holy shit. You yourself, how are you? You know, but he was so attached to what was happening in the world. So that's interesting to see how people live this "how are you" thing, you know.
So
It's
true.
touching, I would say, also when people open up, you know.
So true.
And the piece I want to share, even as you were sharing that, it's like, even if someone were to really open up, like at the bakery or the post office, and if I was like in this rush or didn't feel I could handle it, guess what? I can. Like, we can. In the heat, it just reminds me, like, in the heat of a moment, if someone's really, like you said, like here and just needing that moment to be witnessed, this is the like call of our times. We know we are designed, because we're there in that moment with them, to be able to just acknowledge, just witness. We don't have to do anything with it. We don't have to fix anything. We don't have to take on burdens. We just acknowledge one's humanity. And in that, you know, we're also acknowledging they are so much more, because they're walking this very challenging path. And everyone right now has a lot of that, you know, coming at them. So yeah, we can be that for each other, even when we don't feel like we can.
And even with strangers, sometimes just a big hug is enough, you know? Like this woman at the bakery. I told her, "I understand you," because my mom also had Alzheimer and she was crying. And my reaction was just to give her a hug. And that's it. You know, sometimes words, it's okay, but just a gesture of "I am here." You know, you're not alone, you know. So, yeah.
I love that, Sharon, that when you talk about witnessing and being present, and that one is capable even though perhaps you may not feel it, but sometimes you are planted in a situation where you're meant to find yourself in order to shed light into that, whether it's a coffee shop, whether it's in a lineup, whether it's at the grocery store. You are meant to shed light there, whether it's for 30 seconds or for 3 minutes. And those small increments of light, there's a ripple effect. It's energy that's being reverberated out into the universe, into the collective consciousness of humanity. So even if you think that 30 seconds, oh, I only spent 30 seconds, you know, holding space for them, that's a damn good 30 seconds. That's what I'm talking about. That's damn good, right? Because you are there for 30 seconds holding space.
And sometimes it's not even the duration or the depth necessarily. It may be that nobody else has ever been present for that, whatever that thing is that they might be sharing, right?
I love that.
You know what I mean? I had a woman I met recently through networking, and she was sharing with me some of the things that she was creating. And, you know, she just said it like an answer to something like that I asked her, but then I dug deeper and I was asking her more about it and like, what about this? And like, you know, actually wanting to know, right? Showing curiosity. And she was like, you know, nobody shows interest in my stuff. Like not my friends, my family, like if I tell them about this stuff, they don't care. They're just like, oh, okay, whatever. They kind of blow me off. But you actually like are interested in it. And that, you know, I'm really grateful for that. And I was like, oh, easy. I'm into that stuff anyway. You know what I mean? So you never know what that might actually do just by listening, like you say, Mary, and being available for each other.
That brings kindness to me. Be kind to each other, particularly now in the circumstances on the planet, whether it's politics or climate change. Be kind to each other. Yeah, absolutely. So we are coming to a close, and this "How are you" was actually quite interesting. So a last word, each of you. Mary, you want to start?
Yeah, I think being open, just be open.
Sharon?
I think just be real. Be real and human. And I think that is, you know, we're built for this with each other. I think that is more normal than the cruelty. You know, being kind and real and present is way more normal than being cruel and offhanded and inconsiderate.
Latoya?
Be happy and be grateful. And I think as you were saying that, Sharon, I realized I was thinking to myself, people don't have to be happy though. They could be cranky if they want. Like we have the freedom, right? Maybe I just want to be happy. But then I think it's actually more natural. I think it's a more human thing to be happy and grateful than the conditioning of otherwise. So that's my last word.
Roshni?
Thank you. In the morning, before you rush out of bed, ask yourself how you're doing. How are you? Just ask and see what your body says.
Wonderful. And I will say, be kind to each other and listen. The world needs help. So just be kind to each other. Good. Thank you, ladies. Thank you.
Thank
Talk to you.
you.
Right.